Welcome back, everyone, to the Here's Johnny podcast, the podcast that brings you the best in horror, video games, and films. My name is Larry.
And my name is Justin, and it's a very exciting week. Today, it's our first review of Season 2.
Yes, and we are reviewing one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and in my personal opinion, one of the most influential films in the genre, John Carpenter's Halloween. Throughout this, we're going to talk about the promotional contest, what the next episode is going to be, which you listened to last episode, you know, and yeah. But before we get into all that, Justin, what have you been up to?
So all I have really been up to is I've played a bunch of Dead by Daylight, and I feel like it's going to be the same for you. And I upgraded to a new Elgato, so hopefully this Sunday we'll be able to stream some PS4 Dead by Daylight. But other than that, I haven't really done anything.
Yeah, we had some people join us for our first stream on Sunday. That was much appreciated. Thank you for those. It was, I know for sure Professor Snag came in. There were a few others. So thank you to everyone who stopped in. Now that we're playing the PS4, it's going to be a lot easier, mainly because me and Justin won't suck as hard.
Yeah, it turns out Dead by Daylight on PC is a completely different game.
Yeah, it was very bad. It was very, very bad.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I have not really been up to much, just kind of plugging away at the good old backlog. But yeah, what about you, Larry? What have you been up to?
Sure. So I've been playing Dead by Daylight with you.
Yeah.
I bought Deadly Premonition. I have it installed. I watched the opening cutscene, and I am planning on starting that tomorrow night.
I am very excited for you to start that. It is, just a heads up, it is a weird game.
Yes, like I said, I watched the opening cutscene, and I definitely got Twin Peaks vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Which you gave me a heads up I might get that. So I'm a little bit concerned for the how scary department, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, only time will tell.
And then, like, movies and TV show wise, I watched Halloween, obviously, and then today I watched Annabelle Creation.
Is that the first one?
That is the second Annabelle movie.
Okay, and it was the first one you said that wasn't great?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually think, having seen all of them more recently now, Annabelle Creation is the best spin-off.
Oh, okay. Is that? I'll have to check them out. I mean, I know we have a busy couple of weeks coming up here, but maybe once things settle.
Yeah, for me, it's like Annabelle Creation, then The Nun, and then way down low is Annabelle.
Oh, okay. So The Nun is still high up there?
It's higher than the first Annabelle.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, with all that, then I also want to talk quickly about our promotional contest. I want to say first, thank you to everybody who's starting to get more involved in helping.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a steady increase in emails.
Oh my gosh, emails and followers and just all across the board. It's only been 1 week and it's been fantastic. So thank you to everybody. But before we get into anything else, I want to give the leaderboard. In first place still is Lady Sylvana with 28 points. In second place is Seagram, who you remember was on our review for The Boy, one of our patrons, at 21 points. In third place is Lycan of Light with 20, and then, just so everybody knows, in fourth place is Tyler C with 19 points. So
things are heating up.
Except for Lady Sylvana, who has pulled away incredibly. It's still close, though. I mean, There's a lot of points to be gained, and yeah, all you got to do is just keep on. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, let's go ahead and plug some stuff and then get on to the news. So if you want to get a hold of the show, as always, it's at here'sjohnnypodcast@gmail.com. On Twitter, you can find me at BeaverLA or the show at Here's Johnnycast.
And you can find me at Pickle Thing, and as always, the Discord link and the website link in the show note.
And don't forget that on the website, you can find links to both mine and Justin's blog. I really think there's a lot of fun material up there, and more details on the contest as well as the leaderboard is on there too. So remember, check it, make sure I have everything up to date. Don't feel bad letting me know if I missed something. I am human and I only do my best.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, and you can also, on the website, you can find the master list of all the movies and games, so if you notice that we have anything missing, just let us know.
Please do.
As always, be sure to search us on Facebook at Here's Johnny Podcast. Give the show a like and a share.
If you want to find us on Instagram, it's on Here's Johnny Podcast, and on there we kind of share behind the scene looks at what we're doing. We give reminders about what's happening throughout the week, as well as show goes and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and you can also find us on Twitch every Sunday. Like I said, we're going to be trying to do some PS4 Dead by Daylight this weekend, so hopefully you guys can join us. And that I'll actually also just put a link to the Twitch channel in the show notes as well.
Perfect. And then finally on YouTube, you can find us as of right now. All that is there is the video form of the audio file for the podcast. But here soon, we're going to be uploading our Twitch stream so that you can kind of listen to that later on. And then Justin is going to be uploading some video diaries about the con he's going to and some other stuff. But before we get into that, Justin, want to head into the news?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
All right. And on we go to Justin's Game Corner.
Okay, so this week I actually only have 2 news items. It seems to be slowing down a little bit, surprisingly. So I don't know if you remember, I was telling you that they're remaking the PC Classic System Shock.
I do remember, and we discussed about where that would fall genre-wise for us.
Yes. So before I give you an answer on that, so they're doing this kind of interesting thing with the remake. It was a Kickstarter project, like everything these days. And I think it's like people who pledged $750 or more during
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting this invite to an adventure alpha. And what it is they've recreated so far up to a certain point in the game. I think it's just like the first quote unquote level. And they've dumbed the difficulty down all the way. So I think you can like kill everything in like one hit. And it's just to make sure that that the game is playable. And yeah, so they've just released that. They did release some footage of it. It does look a lot better than the 1994 version of the game. But yeah, I don't know. It looks pretty cool. And if you get a chance, you should check it out.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. I mean, for most of these horror games, I know very little about them. Like I said, like we discussed this before, so I'm excited to play Deadly Premonition. Like, it may be terrible, it may be just awful, but I'm still excited to play new things because I kind of find myself trapped in, like, I find something I like and then I just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for me is kind of expanding my horizon and playing these games that I otherwise wouldn't play. So System Shock, I've heard a lot about it before, just from friends and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to play it, and I'm happy to hear that it's the Kickstarter project's going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, apparently it's not getting released until 2020. So if we get around to it, we are going to have to play the 1994 version of it.
I kind of plan on that anyway. I like playing the original version when we can.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it is a...
Except for Resident Evil, because tank controls can go...
Well, hey, when we get to Resident Evil, we're going to have to play the original. Anyway.
What's your second piece of news?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So, speaking of Resident Evil, I'm sure you have seen it, but they've revealed the liquor.
I did not watch the trailer reveal.
Either did I.
I did see the picture.
Yeah. And?
Oh my god, it looks good. It was, because that's I think I mentioned it in an earlier podcast. I have been waiting for that picture to come out, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, I think it goes like right in line with how awesome everything else has been looking. Like it definitely, you can obviously see that it's still the liquor, but it's just, I guess you could say, like, prettier. It looks better.
Well,
it looks terrifying.
I hope it would.
Yeah. You don't want it to just be a bunch of like pixels on the roof crawling around.
I mean, it still is just pixels on the roof crawling around.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more pixels.
Yeah. Again, I didn't watch the trailer or like the gameplay footage that they revealed, but yeah, it just from this picture alone, I'm getting so excited to play this game.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, anyways, also to answer a question you asked me a long time ago about System Shock.
Oh, yeah, what genre is going to be in?
Yes, so I would have to say, I think it's going to end up in Deranged Man.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, don't tell me any more. I'm very surprised to hear that. I thought it'd be Mad Scientist, but...
Well, I am going to put a caveat here, is that some of these games that we're going to play can fit into multiple categories.
Yeah, I agree. We discussed that in the first episode, actually.
Yeah.
And when we do review a movie or game that we thought fell into a category, and we've been lucky so far, but I do foresee us eventually hitting one that we placed in a category only to find out that it was probably incorrectly placed.
Yes, I agree 100%. So I also want to say that other than Deranged Man, I feel like this could also fit into Kaiju.
It's a monster? I don't know anything about it. Don't tell me anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's just like how I feel. And I feel like once we get to it, we'll play it, and hopefully you'll see what I was thinking when I say kaiju. But with all that, let's head on over to Larry's movie notes.
All right, Justin, I have 3 things.
Okay, perfect. Hit me.
The first, this trailer will be in the show notes.
Okay.
But the trailer for the 2019 adaptation of Pet Sematary dropped this week.
Oh, I did watch this.
It looks awesome.
Yes.
This is one of the first movies that my dad told me I couldn't watch horror films because, I mean, it'd be hard for any parent to watch a little kid get run down by a semi-truck.
Yeah, that's one of my worries going into this.
But for those who don't know, it's about a family who moves into this farmhouse, and they have a kooky old neighbor, and the kooky old neighbor tells them about a cemetery, and the book's been out forever. I'm just going to tell the plot. So
Okay.
the cat gets killed by a semi-truck. The dad buries the cat in the pet cemetery, and the cat comes back to life. So when the little kid gets run over by the semi-truck, the dad goes and buries the kid there, only to,
Yeah. It's a horror movie.
let all hell break loose. This one stars Jason Clarke and Amy Simons as the parents, and the kooky old neighbor is played by John Lithgow.
Which is really exciting. I am a huge fan of John Lithgow.
I am too. He blew me away in Dexter season 4 when he
Yes.
played the Trinity Killer.
Oh my god, it was so fantastic. Like
He was amazing. That might be my favorite television performance of all time, and that's even going above Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister. I think that he was amazing in that, so I'm super excited. Yes, the first film came out in 1989, and in that one, the kooky old neighbor was played by Fred Gwynne. It was pretty cool. He did a really good job in that, and I think that John Lithgow absolutely can kind of fill those shoes. The trailer is terrifying. Definitely watch it.
Yeah.
It comes out in 2019, and I definitely think Justin and I will review that weekend of.
Oh, for sure.
So that's the first one I have. The second news article I have is something I'm pretty excited about. The first episode comes out October 14th, but Eli Roth, the director of Cabin Fever, Hostel, Green Inferno, most recently A House with a Clock in the Walls,
Yeah.
is directing a 7-part series called Eli Roth's History of Horror. And he's interviewing a bunch of horror legends such as Stephen King, Kane Hodder, Joe Dante, Rob Zombie, Quentin Tarantino, Jordan Peele, Jason Blum, Robert Ingold. The list is incredible. He got a lot of really influential people in the horror genre to come onto this. Each 1-hour episode will take viewers on a chilling exploration of how horror has evolved through the eras and impacted society, as well as why loyal fans remain addicted to the fear. So I'm pretty excited for it. How about you, Justin? Have you heard about this yet?
No, I haven't. That's awesome. Like, that sounds amazing. I think that maybe we should even talk about maybe doing something with that.
When it's all done, I would love to. I think it's going to be great. Eli Roth, I mean, he does direct movies that maybe are a little bit hard for some people to watch, but
Yeah.
he really does love the genre. I mean, Green Inferno was an ode to Cannibal Holocaust, and you can tell. So, and I personally love Cabin Fever. I think Cabin Fever was really, really well done. I mean, there is gore in it, but I thought it was beautiful. So I'm excited. I mean, to have someone with that passion and to get these people who we got to come onto it, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, like those are some like huge names. Like, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the first episode will actually come out the day after you listen to this podcast. It's October 14th, so this Sunday, yesterday for the listeners. And yeah, definitely take a look and check that out. And then the last thing I have is a movie that is being produced by J.J. Abrams called Overlord. And I'll include this trailer in the show notes as well. But this one is about a group of soldiers who, after D-Day, get separated from everybody else and come across a Nazi research base, only to find out that the Nazis are doing some pretty terrible things. And it's not for sure it's zombies, but there's definitely like freaky Nazi super soldiers going on. It looks really, really cool. And the best part about it, Justin, why don't you go ahead and tell them why this is so cool?
Yeah, so in Toronto, there's a thing called Toronto After Dark, and it's pretty much just they have a bunch of horror movies there. And we actually got offered some tickets to go see this.
Yeah, we got to pick a movie. Obviously, I'm not in Toronto, so Justin's going to go see it with his wife, and then he's going to do a little video review for the listeners.
Yeah, and it's really exciting. Like, so the movie doesn't come out until November 9th, but because of this event and the free screener tickets we got offered, I actually get to go see it next Friday. So literally the day after we record our Halloween 2018 review.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty cool. We'll probably keep that review spoiler free since it's coming out so far in advance, but hey, to find out what the movie's going to be like almost a month early, that's pretty awesome. We want to thank our listeners for letting us build a community, it's letting us do stuff like this, and hopefully the video review is up to par.
Like you said, like it's just crazy to me that, I mean, we've only been going since I think it was late August.
Late July, early August.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been going for, 2-3 months? Mm-hmm. And we're already getting, like, this cool stuff is already happening. Like, that's insane to me. And I never, like, in a million years thought this would happen. So, thank you guys. It's truly amazing.
I'm excited for you. I mean, there's just so much going on with the podcast. And so many things have been happening in a positive direction that, again, this all goes back to you guys. So, thank you all so much for letting me and Justin kind of start living some dreams. So, with all of that being said, we're going to wrap up the news and head on in to the review of John Carpenter's 1978 classic, Halloween. Justin, here it is. This is one of the movies that I told you if I was going to do this, we had to get to it as soon as possible.
And here it is. Like, it was interesting to watch it again with almost kind of fresh eyes. I really didn't remember a lot that happened in it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And we will get to it later, but we do have some emails from listeners who watched it as well, so we can talk about that too. But first, I have some production notes. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so as we talked about last week, this film is directed, scored, and co-written by John Carpenter, and it was co-written and produced by Deborah Hill. It stars Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis, Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. It is her first film role, and one of the reasons why she got the role is because she is the daughter of Janet Leigh, who was the star of Psycho. And then the Shape in the movie, Michael Myers, however you want to call him, is portrayed by Nick Castle. The film was shot in the summer of 1978 in Southern California on a $300,000 budget. It is believed to have brought in around $70 million at the box office, which makes it one of the most successful independent films of all time. Although many attribute social criticism and misogyny as overriding traits of the film, John Carpenter denies it. And he says that he was, like we talked about last week, he literally just set out to make a scary movie with no commentary at all. It took 3 days for John Carpenter to create the now famous theme. It was written in the complex 5/4 time signature, which I quizzed Justin on last week.
And I was horribly wrong.
In the credits, Carpenter actually credits the score to the Bowling Green Philharmonic Orchestra, which is a tribute to his hometown. Another now famous track of the film is the Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper, which actually appears in a bunch of the sequels. Many attribute Halloween as the rise of the slasher genre. With that came, and kind of with the slasher genre, what comes along with that is the final girl trope, where there's one girl who survives the whole situation, usually pure of heart, doesn't do drugs, doesn't do sex, that kind of fun stuff. It definitely you definitely see how in this film the characters who are more promiscuous and do drugs are killed off, whether that was intentional or not. Like Carpenter says it wasn't, but that's up to the viewer to decide, I guess, for themselves. Also, one of the other things that came out of this film, which hasn't really been seen before this, is that there is a specific theme for the killer, which we start to see in Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, where you hear this certain song and you know that song is attributed to the killer. Some of the franchises that many give credit to Halloween for birthing, for lack of a better word, is Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, like I said, and also Scream. Although Scream, we'll get to that later this season when we review that one, did a lot of stuff on its own way too. In 2006, Halloween was selected for preservation by the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for its cultural significance. I found this out, Justin. There is a novelization by Richard Curtis that was published in 1979. It is actually now currently out of print.
Oh, sorry to butt in here. I actually read about this last night too. And
really?
I really wanted to try and track it down, but yeah, good luck on that.
Apparently it adds a lot of contradictory material to the film, such as it dives into Michael's time at Smith's Grove after he kills his sister. In 1983, a game of the same name was released for the Atari 2600 by Wizard Video. In the game, a unnamed babysitter tries to save as many kids as she can. It is noted for being far gorier than the film was. And in order to save money, Wizard Video didn't print any actual labels for the cartridges, and instead they used masking tape and they wrote Halloween on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of games they made after these slasher movies. Like I know they did a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, and I know there was a Friday the 13th for the NES, and they are all garbage, and I really think that we do not need to play them.
Fine by me. Laurie Strode and The Shape are DLC characters for the game Justin and I were talking about, Dead by Daylight. Halloween has spawned 10 sequels, for lack of a better word, and there are different timelines. I put together 5 timelines, Justin, that I want to kind of briefly go through. The first timeline is Timeline Prime. That's why I entitled it. That one starts off with Halloween, the one we're reviewing now, and then Halloween 2018, the one that comes out next week. We don't know much about that one, so we can't really talk too much about that as of now. Excuse me, Timeline A, which I called Okay Until Resurrection, is Halloween 2, which came out in 1981, Halloween H2O, which came out in 1998, and then Halloween Resurrection, which came out in 2002. Halloween Resurrection, in my opinion, is the worst Halloween film of all the movies.
Is that the one with Ice Cube?
No, it's Busta Rhymes.
That's the one. Yeah, that's
it is bad. It is trash. It is garbage. It is really, really, really bad. I mean, when they kill off Jamie Lee Curtis in the first 10 minutes, it's bad. Michael's mask for some reason has like eyebrows. It's all weird. It's a very bad movie. Timeline B, which I call the Thorn timeline, is Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, which came out in 1988, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which came out in 1989, and then Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which came out in 1995.
Is this timeline the kind of the all about like the curse that he has to kill everybody?
Yeah, that he has the curse of the thorn, and he has to kill off every living member of his family in order to reach this godlike status, and there's this cult of people who try to help him do it. It's weird, especially Curse of Michael Myers. It's really, really weird. I mean, Curse of Michael Myers is definitely one of the worst films, but when you have Halloween Resurrection, you can't be the worst. Timeline C, which I called the Rob Zombie timeline, is Halloween 2007 and then Halloween 2 2009. This one was Rob Zombie's interpretation of Michael Myers' character. I do like Halloween 2007.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I could do without Halloween 2009. It got a little bit too weird for me.
It's very, very Rob Zombie at his weirdest.
Michael talks in it, which was a first. Yeah, not good. And then the final timeline is Timeline D, and I labeled this one it's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. John Carpenter really didn't envision the Halloween franchise as being based on Michael Myers. He more interpreted it as different stories based around the holiday of Halloween. So in Season of the Witch, it's about this toy company who uses the power of like ancient druids to curse these masks so that when kids put on masks, they die. After listening to this terrible, terrible jingle from the Shamrock Toy Company. It's not a bad movie. It's bad when you consider it like a Halloween movie because obviously Michael Myers isn't in it. But it's not a bad movie. Like it's not as bad as Curse of Michael Myers or Halloween Resurrection. It's not Michael Myers. So it's just weird to consider.
I honestly, I don't really remember much from 3 on until Rob Zombies. But I do remember being very confused watching 3 and thinking okay, so Where is he?
Yeah, and that was the reason why Carpenter killed off Michael Myers and Loomis at the end of the original Halloween 2, because he really wanted the story to end.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't direct that film. He did help write it. So, I mean, I don't know. Mustafa Akkad gave Carpenter his wish and made one movie after it, but after it did really, really bad at the box office, he's like, all right, Michael Myers coming back.
I guess I'm happy he did, because I feel like without that we wouldn't have got like Rob Zombie's remake or this new one coming out. Like, I feel like it needed to be dragged through the gutter a little bit before it
could rise again.
Yeah.
Sure, but with all that, that's all the production notes I have. So Justin, are you ready for our 60-second plot summary?
I am. I have my
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to? Your call.
I'll let you go first. I'll go first on games. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
A young Michael Myers is seen stalking through the house, and he stabs and murders his sister, walks outside, parents find him, pull off his mask, and he's sitting there all shocked with a bloody knife in his hand. Shoot forward 16 years, and Michael Myers escapes from the sanitarium with Dr. Loomis's car and heads back to Haddonfield. Cut to Laurie Strode and her 2 friends who are leaving high school and seeing the masked shape following them around. It's Halloween night, they're babysitting, but Laurie Strode is the only one who is pure of heart and not trying to do sex and do drugs. So Michael starts going around and starts killing puppies, kills her friend Annie, kills her other friend and her boyfriend, and then starts chasing after Laurie Strode. Dr. Loomis starts figuring out what's going on and comes to help them after a chase scene throughout the house. Michael is stopped by Dr. Loomis and shot off a balcony. And when they go to look over the balcony to see if Michael is there, his body is gone. And then you cue the theme music.
So you got the whole thing in there again.
I'm awesome, Dustin. What can I say?
Yeah. So about that 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move it down to 30 seconds?
No, that was hard. I was obviously I have a clock ready for myself, so I'm watching it, but that was difficult. That wasn't the easiest thing I've ever done.
Oh, okay.
So with that being said, Justin, your turn. You ready to start?
I mean, do I have to?
Oh yeah, I think our audience would love to hear it.
All right, let's drag Justin through the mud a little bit. All right.
All right, ready? All right, Justin, don't let me down.
Yeah, we'll see.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so little kid goes into his house, puts a mask on, and goes upstairs and stabs his sister a bunch. Walks outside, parents take off his mask, and we see the 6-year-old boy standing there. Shoot 2 years later, I couldn't remember already if it's 15 or 16. And he escapes from the asylum he was put in and goes back to Haddonfield. He stalks a bunch of kids around, really creepy, don't know how he doesn't get caught, and then, oh, here we go, oh no. And then Laurie Strode is babysitting, and her horny friend brings her, the person that she's babysitting over. Michael Myers kills Annie and Linda and her boyfriend, and then come across the street, and then Laurie goes over and sees a bunch of dead bodies, blah, blah, blah. They chase, Michael Myers chases her around the house. Dr. Loomis shows up, shoots him, and he falls over the cliff, and then, oh no.
You did better. That was your best one yet. That was by far your best one yet.
You know what I really have to stop doing?
What's that?
I also am looking at a clock as I'm doing it.
Oh, is it stressing you out?
Oh, big time. Yeah, okay, well, I know for next time. Woo. Hey, that's like the furthest I've got, though.
No, I think you did a really, really good job. You should be proud of yourself. I think you did a brilliant job.
Well, I wouldn't say brilliant or
proud. Other
proud.
ones where you kind of got too nervous and it froze up, I think you did a really, really, really good job.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Justin, with that being said, how about you give me some pros that you have for the plot?
Okay, so I actually think that the plot in this is very kind of, I don't want to say non-existent, but there is very little plot in it, but I feel like that actually works for it. It kind of makes you feel that Laurie and her friends are just very unlucky. And I don't know, that's really like the only pro I have, but I feel like that works for it. What about yourself? I feel like you have a lot of pros, so.
I do.
Yeah.
I also mimic what you said. I think the plot's very tight and concise. There's not a lot of superfluous stuff going on. It's very You know exactly what's happening, and they don't give you any more details than what you need. I think that the teenagers seem very real because Deborah Hill was the one who wrote all the dialogue for the girls, and Deborah Hill was a young woman herself. So instead of having some like 40-year-old guy writing how teenage girls will talk, you have an actual younger woman writing their script. And I think because of that, what they say to each other, how they interact is very real. And I love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, being a teenager, that's almost what guys talk like too when they were teenagers. So
I love the Shape. He's so terrifying because there's no real reason for him to do what he does. And I like the way that we don't know much about him. Like in the later movies, obviously he's given this crazy backstory and different interpretations of it. But in this film, like it's just a kid who killed his sister and then for some reason comes back and starts killing again, which I think was awesome. And then the last big plot I have is I love Dr. Loomis. I thought Donald Pleasance really brought something to this role that without him, the movie would have really suffered. I thought he was great. I do have some cons though.
Okay, let's hear 'em.
So the first one is, why wouldn't Laurie keep a hold of the damn knife? There are so many times that she has a weapon in her hand and she like drops it or like just assumes Michael's dead and it just leads to more problems. It's like, come on.
I get the first time maybe, and that's pushing it, but I get the first time, but the second time when they're upstairs, like hold on to the knife or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
The next thing I have is this always bothers me in horror movies. I don't really have a good reason for it, but when that puppy gets choked out by Michael and killed, like, why didn't Annie or the little girl go out there and check on it? Like, when they left? Like, who leaves a poor little dog out there to just be outside on Halloween night? It really, really bugs me. And I don't know if that's stupid, but I'm a big dog guy, so just to not even, like, I'm always looking for where my dogs are at. So just to leave your dog outside and like not check on it, it just really bothers me. So
I mean, I'm not really a huge, like, I'm not against dogs. I'm not a big dog guy. I'm a cat person, unfortunately. Cats are assholes, and I know that, but cats are also very like, yeah, you know what? I am going to leave you here. You got food and water. You'll deal with yourself. Mm-hmm. But no, I agree. It does bother me as well, especially like this dog is barking like crazy, and then you hear you hear it yelp, and it's like, okay,
exactly.
Oh, it's fine. Like, no, go check on your damn dog. Go check on your dog.
Yeah, and then the last thing I have is this has always bothered me. Like, even when I was younger, like they do address it like in the film, but like, how does a 6-year-old kid who's been locked up? Well, how does a man who's been locked up since he was a 6-year-old kid able just to hop behind the wheel of a car and drive?
Yeah. No. Funny enough, I was writing my notes and I saw that they addressed that in the book.
Yeah, they do address it, but it's still like, come on. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's ridiculous.
But that's all the real cons I have. How about you, Justin?
So I have a couple, mostly just two. One, I would have actually have liked more, like if they fleshed out Michael a little more, like they did in the remake, like the Rob Zombie remake. I think that was fantastic.
Oh, see, I guess I disagree with you there, because for me, I like not knowing. Like the fact that we have no idea what's going on or any, like why he's doing this, to me, that's even more terrifying. It's the reason why, like, I'm sure you've seen it, The Strangers.
Yes.
Like that's why that movie is so scary to me, because there is no reason. Right? Yeah,
I mean, they say, spoiler, in The Strangers, they even say it's just because you were home.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, like, I guess I do disagree with you there, because although I do like what Rob Zombie did, fleshing out Michael Myers' character, I think a better way to handle The Shape was to just leave it all up to the viewer's imagination.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that con is because I obviously have seen the Rob Zombie remake and I know what a good job he did fleshing out Michael. Because, I mean, before seeing that remake, I didn't, I was with you. I was right there with you. I didn't care. I thought it was awesome that we didn't know anything about Michael. So I think that
we did. I mean, you didn't see, luckily, the Thorn films where they made it weird and made him Laurie Strode's brother, and
I did know about that though.
chasing after his niece and all that, and then he had a kid with his niece, and it's a whole week. It gets real weird, but yeah, you are correct. Rob Zombie did a better job fleshing out Michael Myers than the Thorn films did.
The only other thing I really have to say is that the people in this movie are like the most oblivious people ever.
They're high school kids.
Well, yeah, the high school kids. I mean, the fact that Danny didn't realize that there was a car following him, and it wasn't even behind him. The view we were getting was slightly behind him, but you got to think that view is coming out of the back seat of that car. So really, that car was right beside him. And I mean, like, it's stranger danger.
He's a little kid, though. He's a little kid.
Yeah, I don't. When I was a little, if I was like, how old is he? Like 6 or 7?
Yeah.
I've always been paranoid. I've always been looking over my shoulder as I walk. Like,
it's that rough Canadian world you live in.
Yeah.
You don't have that down here in the United States. There is no stranger danger.
I mean, but like, even I watched this movie with my wife, and we were sitting there, and I forget which part it was, but Michael was standing at the end of a driveway or like on the curbside, and people were just like walking by him right up into the house. Like, how do they not notice a guy just standing there, just staring at them? But that's the biggest thing I have for a con. That really dragged it down for me. But that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, so for plot, Justin, I gave it an 8.5. What did you give it?
I gave it a 7.5.
Now moving on to cinematography. So my pros, the opening scene. I mean, for a bunch of amateur filmmakers on a very, very tight budget, that tracking shot is awesome. They did a really, really good job with it, and I've watched a couple videos like behind the scenes stuff, and like they literally they shot it in one day, and because they were limited on like lights, they had to move lights around as the camera was moving through the house.
Oh, weird.
There are a couple of breaks in the actual tracking shot, like when he puts on the mask, that's a break, and there's one more, I forget where it's at, but I mean, for a bunch of amateur filmmakers putting together a film, that's very, very impressive. I love how there's a lack of blood, but even though there is that lack of blood, the movie's still very violent.
Oh yeah, big time. Like, I mean, he strangles a bunch of people.
Exactly, and like he slits throats and stuff, and he's had his sister, but you don't really see a lot of that blood, right? What you more see is just the violent, like, kind of nature of him, which I thought was really impressive, because a lot of films would overcompensate with blood to kind of get that across, whereas you don't really need that. Like, Carpenter didn't need that for what he did. The other thing that I really liked was I liked the long lens shots for the Michael's movements, such as like in the classroom when Laurie's sitting there, looks out the window, comes back, looks back out, and he's gone. I really, really liked that. I like the drive-by when Dr. Loomis is standing outside the hardware store, and then you see Michael drive by in the car, unbeknownst to Dr. Loomis. And then I really, 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 really love when Laurie thinks it's all done. She sends the kids away to go get help, and she's just sitting there, and Michael pops up. Yeah, no, I think they did. Actually, one of my pros as well is like just these long tracking shots. Like, again, I know it was a con for plot wise, like the long shot of him following Danny. The way they filmed that, it was great. Like, I'm a sucker for like those really long shots. Like, I love Children of Men. That's all the pros I have. Do you have anything else besides what I said? I think the low lighting, like this is a dark movie. I think it really works, especially because I really like how like the oranges and reds pop. Like, there are certain colors at certain times in this movie that are very vibrant, and I don't know. Well, no, you're right to notice that, and I talked about it last week in the John Carpenter special. Carpenter said one of the inspirations for this film for him was Dario Argento's Suspiria, and we're gonna be reviewing that later on this season. But Argento used a lot of bright colors. Like, oh yeah, that's how he kind of got this scary world that he created to come across. So you're definitely onto something, because Carpenter was intentionally trying to do that. I think it worked great. Like, even like the times you do see blood, it's very like, it's not just, oh, there's some blood, you know, it's not just red. It's like, it's there and you notice it. Mm-hmm. The only other thing I have, and again, it has to do with the lighting, is that one scene where Laurie Strode is standing in the doorway, and then you just slowly see Michael's mask appear behind her. I love that scene. That is one of my favorite scenes. It's just so creepy, and I think it really
makes him seem like he is just like some crazy, just like wing nut who will just like go
and
anywhere.
Also, like who hasn't like been out in the woods or moving around their house at night when the lights are off and not like felt like that was happening to them? Like that's a very real fear that a lot of people I would think kind of feel. So no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, other than that, I did have like the shots like where Dr. Loomis and the nurse were pulling up to the sanitarium, and just when you start to notice that the inmates are walking around outside.
Yeah, like coming out of the darkness.
That freaks me out. Like, that's terrifying. I think about that every time I drive at night. But other than that, I don't really have any more pros.
All right, what cons do you got?
I only have one, and it's not really a big con. It's just that shot that you were talking about with the 6-year-old Michael stabbing his sister.
Yeah.
It was just that part felt kind of awkward to me, just because the 6-year-old Michael is standing there and his eyes are forward, but he's stabbing really far down. I don't know. It just like something about how his eyes were just staring straight and not actually looking at where he was stabbing. Something about that just bugged me, but that's honestly like, that's a very small thing. Like, it doesn't really bother me, but that's all I really have for cons. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I've watched this movie a lot. There's a scene where Annie peeks behind a bush and it cuts back to Laurie Strode and you see this puff of smoke come in front of her. That's John Carpenter smoking a cigarette.
I have read about that, yeah.
And then there's another, like, you could have reshot that and told Carpenter to get the hell away from the shot. And then the other one that I always find really funny is this film's supposed to take place in the Midwest of the United States. And there's a scene where Laurie's walking around down the street and you see palm trees.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So, like, those are little things, but again, like, these were amateur filmmakers shooting for most of them, their first film. And I do take that into consideration. They are things that will definitely take points away because it's not going to be as good as, like, The Shining, right? Which Kubrick was meticulous. But yeah, so Justin, for cinematography, what did you give it?
I gave it an 8.
An 8? I gave it an 8 as well.
Oh, okay.
Moving on to audio. I'm pretty sure you and I are going to have one pro in common.
Is it the soundtrack?
It is the soundtrack.
Yes, it is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before in some of the other reviews. It's why I ding The Conjuring. The theme for this movie is so good. It is so good.
And it's not only good, it's so incredibly memorable.
Yeah. And to think that Carpenter wrote it in 3 days by himself, it was just him. Like, it's so impressive. Like, you hear this and you know exactly what you're watching. Like, even if you've never seen a horror film, you hear this theme and automatically, like, you're terrified. Like, there's a point in time when I used to run. Like, I used to do a lot of running when I was in high school. And by my house, there was this wood, like this stretch of woods, like the last like quarter mile was along this like wooded path. And I would play it, like, to get motivated and to run faster. I mean, it's so, so good. And then not only that, like, you have to take in consideration, like, yes, Donald Pleasence was a very seasoned actor and is very good, but these girls were, like I said, Jamie Lee Curtis, it was her first movie. These are very new actresses, and they did so well. I mean, granted, part of that is the script that Deborah Hill wrote that really allowed them to be teenage girls. But I really, really thought that the acting overall in this was great, especially, so this isn't really audio, but Nick Castle's like breathing, you know, the heavy breathing and stuff. And like sometimes you'd hear, like at the very end of the movie, you hear Michael's breathing with the theme going, and like it's taking these shots all over Haddonfield, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on? Like, it's so good. What about you? What pros do you have?
So you've actually said all of my pros.
Okay.
So I only have one con though.
I do too.
Okay. I have a problem with how grunty Michael is. I don't know why. He's like, when he's strangling, he's like, I don't know, he's just like he's getting like, I get that it's like
he's out of breath because he's trying to kill someone. I
get that, but for me, I like, it's not even I know it's obviously not a really big con because it's just again proving that he's just a man. But I don't know. It's just like I don't know if I forgot about that, but it caught me off guard because I did not remember he was just so grunty. Like I do like the breathing, like the effect of the breathing and everything. It's just when he got into killing somebody, it was very, very, I don't want to say off-putting, but very distracting.
Well, Justin, we are certainly allowed to disagree because I do.
Yeah, I know. I figured.
But like I said, I do have a con as well. PJ Souls, who plays Linda, says the word totally a lot. And
she's a teenager.
For some reason, that drives me up a wall. Like, I hate hearing it. She's like, totally, totally, totally. I hate it. She says it so much.
You know what I hate, Larry? I hate grunting.
I had to take some points away for that. So for me, because of PJ Souls totally, I gave the audio a 9.5. Justin, what did you give it?
I gave, because of the grunting, we're all allowed to hate something here. I gave the audio an 8.5.
You took off 1.5 points for some grunts?
Yeah, it was
oh my god.
Okay,
oh
I was laughing. I was laughing.
Oh my gosh, you're crazy.
Like, he's grunting to the point where Laurie thinks they're having sex on the phone.
No, it's not okay, alright, I'll give you that. Okay, alright, I can't argue that.
Like, right. That's honestly, like, I will bump this up to 9. Because
you don't have to. No, I don't want to know.
Okay,
you do what you do is best. I will grant you that because yes, Laurie thinks they're having sex because of the sounds that she's hearing at the other end of the phone, which part of that is Michael. So I will grant you that. All right, last category, Justin. How scary? So do you want to go first? Want me to go first? Who want to go first?
I just have really like a couple things about this. I don't really have any cons, so mine will be really quick. So the fact that you really feel like Michael is really just stalking random people. I have no other way to say it, but it really gives me the willies. Like, just knowing that somebody, the way he's doing it makes me feel that somebody could be doing that to me and I have no idea. And it gives me enough chills to make me not want to babysit. Like, that's honestly, that's all I have to say, but I feel like that really gets the point across. What about you?
All right. This was hard for me because I really didn't want to fanboy about this movie. I do love it, and I've seen it so many times. And now when I watch it, I'm not afraid anymore. Like, I've seen it too many times. Like, I watch it at least 2 or 3 times each October, and then a couple of times throughout the year because it's one of my favorites. But I do remember how afraid I was the first time I saw it. I have younger sisters, so when I would babysit them, like, this was something that was always in my mind, right? And, I mean, you hear that theme, and it automatically sends shivers down your spine. Like I talked about, like, when I used to run, right? I would use this as motivation to, like, run faster because Michael was behind me. And I think it's so... You also take in consideration that the scares of this film, with how very tight the plot was, without a lot of, like, background into the killer, which, when you think about, like, Jason Voorhees or Billy and Stu or Freddy Krueger, like, they all have these really well fleshed out backgrounds. There isn't that there for Michael in this. And I think that is so much scarier, like you talked about. But like I said, I don't know. I think you might be surprised by what I ranked it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So Justin, for how scary, what did you rank it?
I actually gave it a 7.5. Just because, like, seeing it now, I was trying to remember what it was like to see this movie for the first time, and I remember being scared. But I still remember it not being the scariest thing.
So I gave it a 7.
You didn't want to go ahead and pull a me and give it a 2?
No, it's nothing like that. Yeah, it's just there are criticisms for this movie that I definitely see, and I don't know. It's just, even though I love it, and when I first saw it, it did terrify me, I don't feel that way anymore. And I have to take that into consideration when I rank it too. I can't just think what 10-year-old Larry thought, right? I have to try to take in where I'm at now. So I gave it a 7. So with that being said, this is plot for Larry is 8.5. Justin gave 7.5. For cinematography, we both gave 8s. For audio, I gave it a 9.5, and Justin, with his grunting hatred, gave it an 8.5. For how scary, I gave it 7, and Justin gave it 7.5. So my score was an 83%. Justin's score was a 79%. So the final score was a 81% B-. So with that, looking at last season, this movie is actually in third. First place is still The Conjuring with a 91%. Second place is The Shining with an 82%, and then following that is Halloween with an 81%. So, Justin, would you recommend this movie to scare a friend?
I don't... to scare them? No. But I feel like people need to see this movie. I mean, obviously everybody's seen this movie, but if you haven't seen this movie, I think you need to see it.
Yeah. I think for me, it would depend upon what it meant to scare a friend. If there was someone who I knew had these kind of trepidations and fears when it came to being home alone or babysitting and that kind of stuff, like, I do think I would scare it. My recommendation of this one definitely falls more along the lines of, this is one of the movies that made the genre. This is one of those films that you have to see in order to appreciate what came later, right? You can't see Scream and not watch Halloween. I mean, for God's sakes, Halloween is in Scream. Like, you have to know your horror history, and this film is that horror history. And I think you really have to take in consideration when you start critiquing it, you have to also take into consideration the fact that this was a movie made by young filmmakers and young actors, and I think when you do that, you really appreciate it a lot more. All that being said, Justin, it was a lot of fun. I'm happy we did it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
We have some emails from our listeners, which none of us have read yet. So we're going to wrap up our review and head on into emails. I want to say thank you to the people who sent in emails. Again, this is one of my all-time favorites. So to have listeners to the podcast send in their thoughts too, it really means a lot. And we're going to hop on it. We have 3. And our first one, Justin, is from Kyle. Kyle writes, "All right, gentlemen, where to begin? I just rewatched this movie after many years, and I hate to say that it's simply a train wreck. I understand how Halloween is nearly 40 years old, so I'll give it a pass on a few things, but wow, was this movie a mess? I won't even get into how horrible the scene where Michael stabbed his sister was, or even the ridiculous lines the couples in the film were given. It's just that they were portrayed as most obnoxious stereotypes of what 70 girls and boys acted like in their teens. If a parody film were made, you wouldn't have to change a thing about their scenes. Moving on to bigger issues, we are really supposed to believe that a 6-year-old child who never even spoke to a psychiatrist to discuss his reasoning is somehow considered the most evil person imaginable. And why is it such a certainty that he's returning to Haddonfield? Because he killed one person there? It's not like there was unfinished business that he needed to attend to, as appears to be the case in the upcoming film. And we're honestly supposed to believe that a clothes hanger knocks this guy out for a minute, but it takes 6 or 7 bullets in the chest to finally get him to fall over the balcony and then disappear in a few seconds. I could continue, but I'll spare you the frustration. The single scene I really enjoyed from the film was when he stabbed the guy to the wall and they show him just staring at the body and slowly tilting his head back and forth. I thought that was incredibly well done and showed his sadistic nature. Apologies to both of you, especially Larry, but I simply do not see how this can be considered one of the best horror movies of all time. With all that being said, I'm unbelievably excited for the new movie. I think they're going to fix the issues and answer many of the questions the original film did not address. Still looking forward to the show and cannot wait to hear your thoughts." Go first, Justin.
I can understand if it's the first time feeling that way, but I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Like, I've never known anybody that like despises this movie like this. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your email.
All right, so I'm going to go into a little bit more of a nuanced discussion. So we're going to break this email down to a few sections. The first one that Kyle brings up is how he doesn't like the scene where Michael stabs his sister. I disagree. I think this is one of the first films where we really see a good use of Steadicam and long tracking shot. And I think it's because of films like this that movies like Birdman by Alejandro Inarritu were able to be spawned. Second, he critiques the girls' dialogue. Again, you can look back to PJ Soles and Jamie Lee Curtis talking about Deborah Hill. Deborah Hill wrote this with them in mind, and they agree that this is how they talked back then. So I would say Kyle needs to talk to more teenage girls from the 1970s.
Well, hold on. maybe we don't tell our listeners to go talk to teenage girls.
Maybe that's fair. Yes. But again, like I said, I could recommend a really good documentary on this film where Deborah Hill and Jamie Lee Curtis are sitting there talking about it. And Jamie Lee Curtis literally says it was thanks to Deborah Hill that the script was written that way. And that's really how they felt like they were talking. Next, he doesn't like how Dr. Loomis calls him evil incarnate. To me, that's part of the allure to Michael. Obviously, Dr. Loomis has worked with Michael, but we don't see that. We don't see it, right? The viewer never gets to see it. I know this is probably someone who thinks that Marvel movies are better than DC movies, and I think that maybe because of that, he likes having things spelled out for him, but this is more nuanced. And because of this, the imagination is there. He comes back to Haddonfield because he was a 6-year-old kid. That's all he knows. And he started his killing spree there, and he wants to continue it. Keep going through here. I think I will straight up give him that the clothes hanger knocking Michael down. No, it's not what happened. The clothes hanger in the eye stunned him. Laurie picked up the knife and then stabbed him.
Yeah, yes, but I can still see where it is a little ridiculous that it took.
And I also think you need to take into consideration that they literally wrote the shape to be the boogeyman. Like, he was designed to be the boogeyman. He wasn't really supposed to, yes, movies now have given him more of a backstory and stuff, but he was designed to just be this entity, just to be this unmovable evil force. I do agree with Kyle that the scene where I can't believe I didn't talk about it in the review, the scene where Michael is staring there looking at the body as he's tilting his head back and forth, that is terrifying.
Well, yeah, that is right. He is 100% right. Yeah, that is where you kind of start to really feel like this guy is just sadistic.
Yeah, I am excited to hear that this movie, he didn't hate it so much that he was now going to not see the new one. But again, I do think that, I don't know, I guess you have to take it's hard because The Shining came out around the same time and it's different, but The Shining was directed by Kubrick, this was directed by Carpenter. There's just different things going on with it. So, again, I have very rose-colored glasses. I do, and I admitted that during the review. But even with that in mind...
I actually have something that I wasn't 100% sure where to bring this up during this episode that I wanted to talk to you about. So, at the end of Halloween, he gets away. But in the 2018 Halloween sequel, he is incarcerated.
Yeah.
Do you think that they are going to retcon a little bit?
They'll have to, because they're starting it. Like I said, when I discussed the timelines, they are taking out Halloween 2.
Yes, but they could also, I just wasn't sure if they were just going to pull oh yeah, he got away, but they caught him down the street.
I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I do know that this is the first film that has Carpenter's blessing. I know that he is okay with it. Obviously, they got Jamie Lee Curtis to come back after her very, very negative attitude towards the franchise after Resurrection. But yeah, I really think that, I don't know, we'll see in a week.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, Justin, how about you read our email from Seagram?
Yes, so Seagram writes us with his Halloween review, and he says, "Hey fellas, Seagram here. After the John Carpenter episode, I had to go back and watch the original Halloween on Shudder. shameless plug, having learned from you that Carpenter did the score himself, the sounds in this film really stood out to me. The sound of Michael breathing in his mask really helped set the tone throughout the movie. It also struck me this time that Michael is out and about during the day, with the scene where he is staring at Laurie in class being especially haunting. That being said, having worked as a dispatcher, there's no way a giant dude in a creepy mask is going to stroll around town in broad daylight and not have the cops called on him. Even with this small complaint, Halloween is still one of my favorite horror series. It gives me a strong sense of nostalgia as I think back to nights spent watching Fear Fest on AMC and doing trivia as my family and I marathon the series. Keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to this review as I know Larry was hyped for it. To the listeners, come join the Discord. We have fun. Seagram.
Well, thank you, Seagram. And yes, Seagram is a mod over in the Discord, and we actually have a lot of people over there now. So if you aren't a part of it, you surely should join. It's fun to discuss that stuff.
Yeah, the Discord is really blowing up. And while I don't agree with I agree with the breathing, as long as you don't mean the grunting as well. I think people were a lot more lax in the 70s with just calling the cops on everybody.
I don't really think it has to do with that. It's Halloween. Like, this takes place on Halloween. Seeing someone walk around in a mask on Halloween isn't all that out of the norm.
Yeah, that is very true.
And yes, I was very hyped for this review, and hopefully I did it justice. All right, Justin, one last email, and I have a feeling that it may be maybe more like Kyle's than it was like Seagram's. Are you ready?
Okay, great.
All right, this one is from Lady Sills. Hey guys, prepare yourselves. This is a long one. In general, I think unpopular opinions require more justification. Don't feel obligated to read this whole thing in your podcast. You can summarize. Oh no, we will read the whole thing. Michael Myers from original Halloween is, to me, one of the worst movie monsters of all time. I know this is an unexpected statement, but allow me to explain. See, my exposure to horror began with the Universal monster movies. I learned what horror looks like from watching Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Invisible Man, the list goes on and on. I think that beginning my horror affair with these movies gave me a set of particular expectations from horror movies. As we all know, a movie can be scary, and a movie can have a great monster, but these two things aren't necessarily related. When I watch a horror movie, I expect both. However, for me, a good monster trumps a good scare any day of the week. Truly, the most important thing for me in any horror movie is the quality of the monster or villain. What makes a good monster? It's hard to say what it is. Maybe it's something about the personality, the motivation, the backstory, the appearance, the movement, the sex appeal, the tragedy, the carnage, whatever. Any one of those things, any combination of them, there's something about a good monster that makes it worth watching. I may not know what exactly a good monster is, but I know what it's not, and it's not Michael. This dude is the most boring movie monster that I have ever seen, and I've seen a lot. He has the most boring personality, none. Boring motivation, again, none. Most boring backstory, killed his sister cause, well, no reason really. Most boring appearance, generic male wearing a mask with no definitive features, literally hair and a white face. Most boring movement, slow walk, slow stab, no sexiness, no tragedy, no nothing. Michael Myers is blank, dull, and boring. I've heard people say that it's exactly this lack of substance that makes him scary. I think that's crazy talk. It's like being scared of vanilla ice cream. It makes no sense. You cannot be scared of something so damn bland. I will say that although I think Michael Myers of the original Halloween is dull as hell, I don't hate the movie, and I do like the Halloween theme. Go first, Justin.
I don't think he's bland. And I'm definitely not scared of vanilla ice cream. This is, I think this is... Wow. People do not like this movie.
Are you done? Because I'm ready to go.
Well, yeah, I wanted to keep mine nice and short because I figure you have a lot to say about this. This is your guy after all.
This is my favorite horror movie monster.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael Myers is about as far of a derivation from the Universal monster movies as you possibly could have gotten, with the exception of Leatherface, I would say, at this time. To say that he is dull and boring is crazy. Okay? Let's start with the personality. So you talk about how he has a boring personality. Okay, what kind of personality would you want? Do you feel the same way about Jason Voorhees? Jason Voorhees has no personality. Really, the only one of the main slashers I can think of with a personality is Freddy Krueger. Because even if I think of Ghostface, Ghostface has no personality outside of who the person is, but when he's wearing the costume, that's all he is. I mean, I really can't think of, outside of a character who is more than just the personification of evil, which is what Michael is. Boring motivation, the fact he has no motivation to kill these people is what is so scary. I would really want to know from Lady Sylvana if she thinks that the killers and the strangers are scary. Or how about the alien from Alien, right? The xenomorph. What's the motivation in that other than to reproduce? I mean, is that enough motivation for you to make it worthwhile? Next, a boring backstory. So you think it's not cool, not cool is the wrong word. You think that having a 6-year-old kid kill his older sister for no reason, and then to walk out of the house carrying the bloody knife and just stand there. Like, what more of a backstory do you want? It's better than Jason. I mean, what, Jason has got a weird head and he drowns because a camp counselor are having sex? I mean, Jason isn't even the killer in his first movie. Like, let's make that real clear. Jason has a mommy complex. Freddy Krueger just won't die. I mean, oh my gosh. Okay. Boring appearance. Okay. Michael Myers' mask is a replication. Not replication. Back then, that original mask was a mask of Captain Kirk that they got for $2 at a drugstore. They shaved off the sideburns, they painted the mask white, and they made it. That mask is so iconic that anybody, even if they haven't seen the movie, knows who that is. So, you might say it's boring, but I'd rather be iconic. So, I'll take that. Most boring movement ever. Jason only walks. When Jason runs in one of the later movies, it looks stupid. The fact that he's just a slow stalker chasing you, play Dead by Daylight for a couple rounds. The fact that they just walk after you is terrifying. No sexiness. I'm sorry, it's not Dracula. Like, I don't know what you want. I mean, did it really bother you the fact that Phantom of the Opera's face was torn apart? Like, did that make that movie no longer good for you? Like, what do you need? No tragedy? Okay, teenagers just getting massacred. That's enough for you, I guess. Michael Myers is anything but blank, dull, and boring. He is amazing. And you know what? You can call him Vanilla Ice Cream. I call him an icon. I call him the reason why the genre exists. I call him the head of a 10, 11 film franchise. And he's in the National Registry for Films because he is culturally significant. So I guess Congress disagrees with you. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for your email. All right, Justin, with that, let's go ahead and wrap this up and head on into closing. Justin, it seems like every week this time comes faster and faster, and even though it seemed like I was a little bit triggered during the email section, I really enjoyed hearing from you guys. We are allowed to have different opinions, and you are totally allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that they have different opinions is what really makes it interesting, and I hope that they keep writing in.
I think they will. I mean, yeah. Our next episode will be the Halloween 2018 review. So we will have spoilers, but hopefully everybody's going to go seeing it on opening weekend, and if not, just download it, listen to it later. So the question of the episode this week, guys, is going to be, what is your favorite Halloween movie? Not like scary movie, but of the Halloween franchise, what is your favorite Halloween? So with all that being said, Justin, let's do a couple plugs and get out of here, huh? All right, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at BeaverLA. And if you want to find the show on Twitter, it's at Here's Johnny Cast.
Yeah, and as always, you can find me at Pickle Thing, and you can always email the show at Here's Johnny Podcast at gmail.com.
If you're able to, we do have a Patreon. And although we are not doing this podcast to get rich, if you do help us by supporting us through the Patreon, everything goes right back into the show. So whether that's brand new mics or a Elgato for me to stream as well, or getting a hold of rare games or rare films, or going to see different things, like that's what it goes toward. All goes back into the show, so hopefully we can provide you with a better product. And we appreciate every dollar, we appreciate every listener, we appreciate every download, we appreciate every email. So just keep interacting with us. We really appreciate it. This has really developed into something that we weren't quite ready for, but we're very happy that it did.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, thank you guys. Like, it's like Larry said, it's turned into something that I really did not think it would be. I was expecting we'd get maybe 10 listeners and that would be it. We'd have a year of that and then, whatever. But no, I'm excited to see where we can keep growing from this. So
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. So with that being said, until next week, keep an eye out. Whether it's across the street, in a cupboard, or in your backyard, you never know what the shape might be working.